Hey, this is DJ Costanza from Sensory Collective, and in this tutorial I'll be showing you how to make a bass instrument patch from a bass sample. And as usual, I'll be doing this in Reason, so some of the details will be specific to what's available in Reason, but the general ideas apply to any other music software or hardware. Alright, let's get started. You might be wondering, why would you make a bass from a sample instead of using a synthesizer? And my answer is, why not? It's a technique that might get overlooked because I feel like it is a lot more obvious if you want a bass line to just create an instrument, a synthesizer instrument to do that. But this technique is actually really simple, and it just might be something that didn't occur to people that you could even do this. You can also learn, more about how you can manipulate samples, and it's just an alternative way to make bass lines. So obviously you're going to need to find something to sample. Ideally it would be an isolated bass note, or at least a bass note that doesn't have any percussion over it. The one that I'll be using in this tutorial is a bass note with an organ layered over it, and there's some record static and stuff too. So here's the sample that we're going to work with. Play the whole thing, sorry. So just this first note. Okay. So over in Reason, I'm going to create a sampler, an NXT sampler to for the bass. And I made it a blank patch, and now I'm just going to add my bass sample in here. So the first thing to do is right-click and do Set Root Note from Pitch Detection. And what this will do is it figures out the pitch that the sample is playing at, and it maps it to the correct key on the keyboard. So for example, if you play a D note on the keyboard, it's actually going to play a D note in the sample. You can do this by ear, but this is just a quick way to do it. The next part is figure out the range of notes that you want to play. For a bass line, you don't really need a huge range. I'll usually pick from the root note of the sample right here, I'll set the range to 1 octave below it and 1 octave above it. So on my 25 key keyboard over here that's off the screen, it's just the full set of keys on here. Okay. So at this point, it's a really basic patch. It is usable, but it doesn't really sound that good. There's a lot of ambient noise and clicks and stuff like that, and it's really noticeable. So to clean this up, I'm going to use a low-pass filter. This is really effective because we're sampling a bass anyway. You don't really need the high frequencies to get the sound that you're looking for. So just start off reducing the filter frequency and keep playing the note until it starts to sound a lot cleaner. Oops. And for this one, that's going to be around 200 hertz. Maybe a little lower, yeah. Right around 200. So that got rid of the record static and other things that didn't sound like a bass in that sample. So you can also adjust the resonance a bit. I'm going to increase this to about 20%. And you can switch between different low-pass filter types. There's in Reason there's LP6, LP12, and LP24, and I don't really remember what the difference is between these, but they do sound a little bit different. I like LP24 for this one, so I'm going to stick with that. Okay. So this is sounding a lot better, and it's still limited because the sample is very short. So you can only play short staccato notes with this patch. If I hold the key down, it's just a short note. So to play sustained notes, the sample needs to be looped. And so I'll switch the sample play mode from forward to forward loop. And when you first set this up, what forward loop means is you can see the start, end, and loop end points here. When a sample is playing in forward loop mode, it's going to start at the start point. It's going to play forward until it reaches the loop end. Then it's going to go back to the loop start, and then it's going to go back and forth between the loop start and the loop end repeatedly, as long as you're holding down the note. So the default settings for the loop start and the loop end are the start and end of the sample. So if I play this note, it's just going to repeat itself over and over again. So again, now you can have sustained notes, but because it's just playing the full sample, it doesn't really loop that well. So now what you do is start decreasing the loop end and increasing the loop start, and at some point you're going to find a loop point that sounds really smooth. So let's try this out. So that's a little better. Increase the loop start. Also better. And this can be kind of tricky. There's always a point that you can find in these samples, but other than trial and error, I don't really know of an effective technique to be able to find these quickly. So I'm just going to skip ahead to the final values that I picked for the loop start and the end point. Right. So over here, for the start, I put it at 35.5%, just a little more, and for the loop endpoint, I put it around 70.5%. 13.525. All right. So now you can hear the sample loops really cleanly, and you can hold it for extended notes more so than you could before. So at this point, I mean, it's pretty much ready to be used in a beat. There are some other tweaks though, and I'll show you a couple of them. For smoother transitions between the bass notes, you can switch the group settings to legato and add some portamento, and you're going to want to decrease the key poly down to 1, which means that you can't play overlapping notes. And with retrigger, every time you hit a new key, it's going to play the sample from the beginning. With legato, it doesn't apply the amp envelope again, so it kind of transitions smoother between notes. Here's an example of that. So I don't know how well you can hear that, but kind of gliding, you get kind of a gliding effect with more portamento and legato. Another thing that you can do is, if you're going to be playing extended notes, right now it loops but it doesn't fade out. So what you can do to get a fade out effect, maybe like if you want to play, say you have a bass line that's going to be just one note and it's held for 1 bar and you want it to fade out over the course of a bar, you would increase the amp envelope decay and decrease the amp envelope sustain, and now decrease that a little bit. My mouse works. There we go. Now these notes will fade out gradually. And depending on the tempo of your beat, you can kind of just adjust this decay and sustain setting until it matches up to a value that you'd like. Alright, so that is pretty much it. Like I said, it's a real simple technique. Probably the most difficult part about it is finding good bass samples. But it is a technique that I think people might not, it might not be obvious that you could even do it. And it's just another way to get a different little bass sound. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out sensorycollective.com for more production tutorials. I'm DJ Costanza, and I'm out.